All right, what's going on, guys? This is going to be the first inaugural video of Court Vision with Mike and Mike. We're both Mike. Easy enough. We're starting our Better Than Vegas page. We're going to focus pretty much on the NBA. Seems like a market that's lacking kind of in the gambling world in general.
Right.
It's kind of a fading viewership sometimes, except for in fucking China. But I don't know. I mean, it should pick up eventually. It's
I
just
would think.
people gamble on anything. So we follow it real closely. We do a lot of homework on the NBA. I mean, we got notebooks and printed out pages and all kinds of shit. So we follow it. We're pretty good gambling on the NBA. We're going to cover some on our page in general, not just today, but we're going to cover fantasy basketball, which we're pretty solid at, picks, Thrive Fantasy, which is player props. If you guys are down with that, we're going to get into that a little bit throughout time. So today, our first video is going to be an NBA Eastern Conference preview. We're going to go team by team, go over the over-unders. Videos might drop a little late for it to be of any relevance to anybody gambling, but it should give you a little rundown on what's been going on if you missed it. I mean, there was a quick turnaround this year, so should help out. Anything to add?
Well, nothing really. Uh, just kind of just give you guys a preview and see. I mean, the season starts tomorrow?
Yeah.
It's Monday the 21st right now.
Yep.
Uh, so kind of, I mean, we've done our research on this, and we're just kind of gonna pound out the videos here
Mm-hmm.
and see how it goes. So,
Pound it out.
yeah.
We're going to be learning. I mean, Better Than Vegas is new in general, but we're kind of new to posting videos, social media in general, as far as like actually putting out content or anything like that. So, uh, some of the technological stuff, kind of bear with us. I mean, obviously, no intro music or sound drops or anything like that going to be for
Right.
now. We're just two dudes that live in an apartment and fucking gamble. So
Right.
we'll try to make the videos as entertaining as possible, not be just like those nerds that sit there and type on their computer and fucking
Yeah.
just talk and
Right.
try to at least be entertaining. And hopefully, as we go along, if we get some viewers and you guys follow and win some money with us, um, hopefully we can keep getting better with it. So
Yeah. And if we suck, tell us we suck.
yeah,
Whatever. You know.
fuck you.
Yeah.
All right, so we're going to start off, like we said, in the NBA Eastern Conference. First team we got here is the Toronto Raptors. Over under is 42.5. The championship odds for the Raptors are plus 2,500.
All right. The Raptors won 53 games last year, 53 and 19. They lost Marcus Gasol, Serge Ibaka, Rondae Hollis Jefferson. They got Aaron Baines and Brian Lynn. You know, this team's, and I think we talked about it before. I thought this team was going to be really good, and I actually had them at one point last year, early before the bubble and all that. I thought they were probably the Eastern Conference favorite, maybe even the NBA Finals favorite. Just so much depth on this team. It's thinning out a bit though, and I don't think Siakam is really the superstar that I thought he was going to be. Just watching him more and more, like obviously he's a good player, but I just don't see that next level All NBA type. What do you
Definitely
think?
not yet. Not big on Siakam after what we saw last year, and especially when the bubble restart happened, and you just keep waiting for him to hit his stride, and it just never happened.
No, it didn't.
Um, and then this year, like we said, you're losing Ibaka, you're losing Gasol. I mean, Gasol didn't play big minutes, but he was a vet, and Ibaka was a vet, and Ibaka was a big part of the team. Um, so now to say that you're going to have fucking Aaron Baines and then Boucher, who looks good in garbage time or whatever, and he could have some upside, but it's just not enough to make up for what you lost.
Mm-hmm.
A big thing to remember this year, considering these over unders. I mean, Vegas has already accounted for it, but you're 10 games less, 10 games shorter on the season. Who knows, if you follow baseball, college basketball, college football, all the games that get canceled, postponed, whatever. Who knows what's going to go on with that in the NBA? Um,
Yeah, no clue.
Toronto, in particular, is playing their games in Tampa, which they're a, a great home court advantage when teams have to go there. Playing down in Tampa, I don't know what that's going to look like. I mean, we're going to be moving to the Tampa area here like real soon within the next few months, and they don't care about sports down there unless you're fucking good. For one,
Right, and especially basketball, like it's kind
it's an
of.
indoor sport.
I mean, because you got the Bolts down there who are. I mean, they care about the Bolts.
Yeah,
They
the
care
Tampa
about
Bay
hockey.
Lightning just won a championship.
All right, so
You
they care
know,
about that. But I mean, a lot of places you either have basketball or hockey, and it's definitely a hockey town.
hmm
And then especially now you got the Buccaneers who are
hmm
good. You have the
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 Rays were in the
Rays who are in the
playoffs.
playoffs. I mean, it's just not. They're not going to really be, especially it not being their team either.
Right.
So
You
I don't
know,
think there's going to be many people.
if anybody's watching from California or Florida, I mean, you see how it is. You see how it can be with the USC Trojans, UCLA Bruins, fucking the Rams, the Chargers. Those teams can sometimes they could be good and
Right,
still not
right,
fill up stadiums. And
right.
it's the same down in Florida. I mean, we went to a Florida State Seminoles game a couple years ago, and we were able to move about the stadium like no problem because
Right,
the student section was packed. But outside of that, nothing really because they weren't good. You got shit to do down there.
right.
So, and also a few hours away, you got the Miami Heat, who were in the finals. You got Orlando, was like what 2 hours away. They
Yeah,
were at least a playoff team. So now you're putting this Toronto team down in Tampa. So even if there are fans, which Florida don't give a shit about COVID, they just
right.
whatever,
Yeah,
lick it off a stripper snatch down there. They don't fucking care.
yeah.
Um, but it's just that I don't see fans coming to this game. It's not going to be a home court advantage,
No, no.
which nobody's really going to have a home court advantage. But for a team that relied on it a lot,
And
it's going
then,
to hurt.
yeah, I mean, if things do lighten up here towards the end of the season or whatever, I mean, they're still not going to, as long as they're playing down there, because it's a whole different country. You don't know what, I mean, maybe things lighten up here, but they don't in Canada, or whatever happens.
Yeah,
So,
they have that mayor that would run around doing coke and shit.
yeah. Speaking of which, like, I was running nose, and I feel like it's like Coke, like I'm Coke or something. I don't know. I don't
Who
know.
was the dude that tried to help their mayor that had that coke addiction? It was a player, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was somebody.
Fuck, I
I
forget.
forget who that was.
Because it was like a player that probably did coke too. Not Lamar Odom, but something like a Lamar Odom. uh, but
Who was that? I don't remember who
I
that
can't
was.
remember. It was really funny though. We'll have to look that up.
No, it was a wrestler that did it. It was
Oh, it was Brutus the
Bruce the
Barber
Barber Beefcake. Yeah, it was Bruce the
Who
Barber
definitely
Beefcake.
did coke.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
And coincidentally, he lives in Tampa.
Yeah, he does.
So weird. I don't know how I knew that, but I do. So
Yeah, so there's none of that. Go, well, I guess you do have Brutus the Barber Beefcake running around doing coke or not doing coke. I'm not sure. Well, your uncle did physical therapy on him, so he's probably not running around doing anything.
right.
Anyways,
That's how I know. I forgot about that.
back to the Raptors, and you got Lowry is an aging star. He came into preseason. That booty's looking a little fat again, a little big there. I just don't know what Lowry's motivation for this is going to be. Playing outside of Toronto and not really having like a true superstar alongside him. They gave Van Vliet that big ass contract, and
Right.
he's just a glorified Lou Williams to me. Can't
Yeah.
do anything but score. And God, he's so short and stubby too. Like,
I know.
I don't know. I think if teams were worried about being beat by Fred Van Vliet, they would be able to stop him. I
Right.
just
They don't-
think
I don't
teams are worried about it.
No. And they paid up for OG today too, actually, which I like OG a lot. But now you're in that position where you're going all in, you're spending all this money on these guys, and I just don't think it's a team that has it that can do it. I mean, I think the ceiling for this team over the next couple years is, maybe semifinals, conference finals at best, and that's an absolute ceiling. So
I don't see this team as a conference finals team.
no.
So
So you got Bain, Siakam, OG, Van Vliet, and Lowry as your starting lineup projected. 42.5 wins. I actually have them going over. I have them going 46 and 26. I'm not confident in that at all. I think that could go either way. But yeah, that's where I'm at with it. Where are you at with them?
I have the under 40 and 32.
Okay.
And I wouldn't say I'm super confident, but I would feel good taking that under, knowing that they have no home court anymore.
Right, right.
And I think with Powell being their only legitimate real threat coming off the bench, you're an injury away from being in a lot of trouble if you're that team. So I feel pretty good about the under.
Yeah.
Next up, we have the Boston Celtics with the over/under of 45.5. Championship odds at plus 1,600.
Celtics went 48-24 last year. They brought on Jeff Teague, Tristan Thompson, Naismith's a rookie. They lost Gordon Hayward and Ines Cantor, which, I mean, Cantor didn't really play much towards the end of their
Losing Enes Kanter.
Yeah. So you're looking at your starting lineup: Tice, Tatum, Brown, Marcus Smart, and Kemba whenever he's back. If not, you got Jeff Teague. I actually love the Jeff Teague move. I think he's a better fit on that team than Kemba Walker is. I also like that they brought in Tristan Thompson. I mean, there's a lot of gritty guys, a lot of veteran leadership. You got, and Tristan's going to come off the bench, and Teague's going to come off the bench at some point too. So I don't know. This team's really good. I think that they might start off a little bit slow, is what I had written down here. Potentially just getting these guys set in their roles and stuff like that. I mean, Teague's used to be in a starter. Tristan Thompson's used to be in a starter up until the last half of last year, but. Overall, I think this team is going to be pretty good.
I agree. I don't mind losing Cantor or Hayward. Losing Hayward spent so much time injured over his time in Boston that I don't think it's a huge loss to see him go. He's a great two-way player, uh, but he cleared up that logjam a little bit, like we were saying. So Cantor rarely played anyway. Huge defensive liability. So I like the fact that you add Tristan Thompson to a team with a lot of attitude and a lot of scrappiness. I think, with Marcus Smart, you get that right automatically. That attitude in the locker room, kind of blends to everybody else. And then now you add Tristan Thompson too. That's a legitimate rim protector, and it adds a lot of chippiness to that team,
Right.
especially defensively. Kemba's banged up, but like you said, we add Jeff Teague, so that's going to give you some minutes there at point guard. Marcus Smart can play some point guard, give you minutes there. They've been pretty high on that rookie Peyton Pritchard out of Oregon throughout the preseason. They've been pretty stoked about him. And then you got Javonte Green, you got Carson Edwards, and Tremont Waters, all that are young point guards where the jury's kind of out, but they all have potential. So if even one of those guys steps up while Kemba's out, and they'll be fine, and then maybe Kemba figures it out when he comes back, or maybe he's gone at the deadline. But
right,
I'm not bothered by Kemba being kind of day to day. Then you got Semi Ojeleye, you got Grant Williams, you got Robert Williams, Romeo Langford. Those are all guys that even seen playoff minutes in the bubble. So those are guys that are going to have another year under Brad Stevens, who's been developing players there, and they're just building a good culture with a lot of depth. Nesmith, like you talked about, he's a strong small forward prospect. Saw a lot of mock drafts where he went in the top 10.
Yeah.
So that's a great pick for them. That's great that they were able to land him.
They just have a really good mix of like veterans, younger guys that have been there for at least a couple years. You got like your Brown and Tatum who brought them to the conference finals with all the injuries a couple years ago.
And those guys, too, are beyond their years. Tatum is talented beyond his years and comfortable in the NBA beyond his years.
Right.
And Brown is just wise.
Yeah, he's like genius.
Yeah, he's just extremely smart. So, has a great work ethic. You have so much of that on that team that even though they don't have a ton of like actual vet leadership outside of like Kemba, a little bit Tristan Thompson there. I mean, Tristan has a ring,
right?
But the young guys are just so mature and so ready.
They are.
You would have to see a great step back out of Tatum, Brown, or Smart for this team not to compete,
right?
And I don't see it happening. So, I don't see this as a bad bet at all at plus 1,600 for the title. No, I don't think they're necessarily going to win it, but if you have some money to chuck it, plus 1,600.
That's a great bet.
I see them as winning the East this year, so it at least puts you in the championship if I'm right.
Right. 47-25 is what I have the Celtics. Like I said, I thought they'd have a little bit of a slow start and then roll towards the playoffs. So 47-25 over was 45.5. So definitely, even though it's only a few games, it's only a game and a half above what the over is, I'm pretty confident on the over.
I actually have the same record and feel the same way. I feel it's kind of a low ball.
Yeah.
I'm pretty confident they're going to hit it. So no reason really to speculate that they won't.
Right.
Next team we got are the Philadelphia 76ers with an over-under 44.5. Championship odds are plus 1,400. So even better odds than the Celtics.
How? Why?
Not a clue. Not a clue why.
So, I mean, the 76ers aren't a bad team, but come on. I mean,
they got a lot to prove this year.
Yeah. I mean, the better odds than the Celtics.
They looked pathetic in that bubble. They looked pathetic.
Yeah.
So now you're talking, you got a new coach.
Yeah.
Go ahead, go with the additions, subtractions of the players.
All right, so they were 43-30 last year. Sixers, I can't get over that. They have like worse or better odds than the Celtics.
It's ridiculous.
They brought in Tony Bradley, Seth Curry, Terrence Ferguson, Danny Green, Tyrese Maxey, and Dwight Howard. So I mean, you brought in some depth there. Nobody that's really going to make a huge difference. You lost two starters, though. I mean, you lost Al Horford and Josh Richardson. You lost Zaire Smith, Alec Burks, Glenn Robinson III, and Raul Neto.
So you got rid of Horford because there was a lot of chemistry problems going on there, So you know what fixes chemistry problems?
Dwight Howard.
Dwight Pretty Boy Howard. Who is classically known as a lock. And I love Dwight Howard.
Yeah, me too. I absolutely love Dwight Howard. But
he's an oddball of every locker room he's in.
Yeah. And I don't think him and Ben Simmons are going to get along.
Ben Simmons doesn't get along with anybody because he's a bitch.
Ben Simmons is a bitch. I mean, straight up, Ben Simmons is a bitch. I'd call it to him to his face if he was here right now.
When you see this Ben Simmons, you're a bitch.
So your starting lineup is Embiid, Tobias Harris, Thibault, Danny Green, and Ben Simmons. We were talking, and we were actually talking about the 76ers earlier, because we were talking about how losing Josh Richardson, you kind of have 3 or 4 guys on the bench that have to try to make up for what he is.
Right.
I mean, the team's they're just not that, you have, so your starting 5, you have Danny Green, who is supposed to...
If Danny Green starts another year on a contender in the NBA, I'll eat my dick.
Right,
he cannot start.
No, he's not good enough. He's supposedly a 3-and-D guy,
and
but he's
ugly as shit.
Oh, God.
Danny
Green is hideous.
God damn, we're both straight males. Not that, there's a problem if you're not. But I judge a lot of talent off of looks.
Right.
That man is ugly.
I mean,
that
really,
has a lot to do with his performance last year.
I mean, really, this is an ugly team overall. Other than your big men, I mean, Dwight and Embiid are fine, but other than that, I mean, you got some ugly guys on this team.
And Embiid's not fat this year. Embiid came in shape.
Yeah. So I think, the bottom line with this team, I think you have to. So you brought in Doc and you brought in Morey. I don't know what their end game is. Are you going to run a true Doc Rivers offense, or are you going to run, are you going to try to screw things up, or, screw around with different lineups with, kind of like what Morey did last year? I mean,
it's going to be Simmons bringing a damn ball up the court,
Yeah. I don't know. Ben Simmons is not...
He's so counter what the game is evolving into.
Right.
He's so counter what the Warriors have been and what teams have been trying to do to keep up with the Warriors.
Right.
He's so slow. He's big. He's slow. He can't shoot.
Right.
It's not conducive to what the league is.
No. I mean, I would take... If you told me that... I would almost rather have a Ben Simmons that was exactly how he's built now, but couldn't pass or or rebound or anything worth a shit. Because at least you would know, okay, this is like a $6 million a year like lockdown defender, and I'd be cool with that, you know. But when you're talking about like this Max guy that's supposed to be the face of your franchise, no, I don't see it.
No, it always seems like people lean towards him over Joel because that's always like the talk is
Right.
those two can't really get along, and so far it hasn't really looked like it's working out. But seems like a lot of people lean Ben Simmons' way, and I just go back to when Ben Simmons was at LSU and how terrible that LSU team was.
Oh, they were
And
horrible.
I mean, you look at a guy that turns out to be a star in the NBA like Carmelo. You know, that Syracuse team won a championship.
Yeah,
You got to at least, you know, Zion was noticeably great at Duke on,
right.
you know, Duke teams that haven't been performing all that well. And yeah, they still got knocked out in the tournament, whatever. But
Right, but yeah.
I mean, he was still noticeably made a difference on that Duke team. It's you can tell the guys in college that have the heart and the drive and they make differences. You know, even your Kemba Walkers in the tournament.
Right.
You know, and Ben Simmons couldn't even get LSU to the tournament.
He just doesn't have like the heart or the drive or anything.
And then he didn't want to play in the NIT.
Yeah.
And he voted to not play. And none of his teammates got that television exposure of,
right.
Hey, you know, we're in the NIT. This team has the coming up number 1 overall pick. You know, watch us in this tournament. He didn't want to do it because he doesn't have the heart. He doesn't have the drive.
He doesn't.
Listen, if you're going to be in the NBA and you have no interest in even learning how to shoot a 8-footer,
yeah,
come on, man.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, I had them the over under is 44.5 for the Sixers. I had them winning 39 games, going 39-33. I honestly don't really see them doing any much better than that. I'm pretty comfortable on the under there. You know, you got a good coach in Doc Rivers, but I mean, he's walking into some crazy shit, kinda, and I don't know.
Philly is traditionally a much better team at home than they are on the road. Again, it's a COVID year. No home crowd.
Right.
They typically perform down to the talent. I think they're going to struggle to get a lot of those wins that they got against bad teams or teams that they played at home. So I have them 37-35. So I see them as a team squeaking in, you know, 5 through 7 seed.
Right.
And hopefully, you know, if they get better, if they improve, it'll be towards the end of the year. I think it's going to take a minute, especially with Doc coming in.
Right.
I did also have down that this is the team that I would most like to see James Harden come to. It's one of the teams in the talks. I think if you trade Simmons for Harden, I think it's a good move for the Rockets, and I think it's a good move for the 76ers. You know, once Harden loses all that fat that he put on, and then Joel Embiid, you know, he came to preseason, he looks good, he looks in shape. I think Harden and Embiid are both ready to prove something. And I think they would work really good there. You could have Harden handle the ball. It gives you obviously the perimeter shooting that you're missing. You got a lot of defense with Thibault and Ferguson. Danny Green even to cover the perimeter. So,
right.
I really like that fit there. So
yeah, and now it's not like, oh, Danny Green's our 3-point shooter, you know? Like,
Danny Green's a bitch.
I know.
So yeah, that would be the team I would like, but yeah, neither one of us are real big on the under. Ruby, shut up. That's our dog.
The dog's freaking out.
Okay, so our next team we got coming up is the Brooklyn Nets. Over under 45.5. Championship odds at plus 600. Go ahead.
Nets went 35-37 last year. Obviously, they added Durant, Bruce Brown, Landry Shamet, Jeff Green. They only lost Garrett Temple, and now you're talking, you know, brought in Kyrie too because he didn't really play much.
Kyrie's a bitch.
Kyrie is a bitch. That's our second huge bitch of the day, maybe third.
I think
third, yeah. And 2 of them were on the Sixers.
Yeah.
So the projected starting lineup there is Jared Allen, Kevin Durant, Joe Harris, Karis LeVert, and Kyrie Irving. Like, this team is going to be good, obviously. as long as they stay healthy, there's no reason why they can't be a top 3 seed or shouldn't be a top 3 seed. That being said, I think they're one Kevin Durant injury away from being what they were last year. Because if Kevin Durant gets hurt, Kyrie's going to bitch out, and all of a sudden it's just going to be the same team they had last year. Now their team last year wasn't bad, but they went through like 3 coaches since then. So
you got Steve Nash coming in, who's never coached before.
Hmm.
Which doesn't traditionally work out all that well usually.
Right.
I mean, you have your spot situations where, yeah, okay, Ty Lue comes in and wins a championship. Well, he was with LeBron,
Right.
and Steve Kerr comes in and wins a championship he's never coached before. Well, that Warriors team is the absolute perfect mix of chemistry and guys that can handle it.
Right.
Any other set of guys coming in with Steve Kerr replacing Mark Jackson, who was a player's coach, that could have went up in flames for Steve Kerr real fast if it was a different mix of guys.
Oh yeah.
And a good example of a different mix of guys would be this Nets roster.
Yeah, I mean, you have 2 of the biggest divas in all of sports on this roster.
And I love Durant, and I respect both of their games. Kyrie Irving's really fucking amusing.
Yeah, he just saged the garden.
Yeah, he did. He saged the fucking garden. He's insane.
Yeah,
he's an Aborigine.
Yeah,
or Native American. One of them.
I think, yeah,
but he's Australian.
Something. Yeah,
very confusing. But Kenny Atkinson did a hell of a job.
Oh yeah,
in Brooklyn, and so did Jacques Vaughn. During his interim time of getting the team of ragtags into the playoffs, basically.
Right. I mean, coming into the bubble, like we were laughing our asses off at the Nets roster. We're
ridiculous.
We're like, why is this team even playing? They're just these guys. And they did have games where it was like Jared Allen was out and Spencer Dinwiddie was out, Levert was out, and these guys, and you just these random guys thrown in there, and they weren't bad, honestly.
I mean, they won 5 out of 8 of the bubble games or whatever,
something like that. Yeah.
So this is pretty impressive.
Yeah.
It's a lot. So Kenny Atkinson basically got fired for making Kyrie Irving run suicides at practice.
Yeah.
I mean, it's man, Nash, you're gonna have to stand there, hold a clipboard, look pretty, and shut up. Like, you gotta mind your manners because you're dealing with some divas.
Yeah.
They lose no one basically. They bring in Jeff Green, who's a pretty underrated acquisition to any team he goes to.
Yeah.
Real good. Obviously, you bring Kevin Durant into the mix. And with all those players that, like we were saying, they played in the bubble and they played in the playoffs in the first round, everybody on that team got experience. And I mean, there's so much good about this roster. It just can go up in flames so fast.
Right.
And you're talking, this is a team that needs to stay healthy and they need to stay happy because of their attitudes. And you have the 2 superstars on that team are 2 of the least capable players of staying healthy and happy.
Right.
And I know Kevin Durant's going to get on a burner and talk a ton of shit to us about this.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah.
But like I said, I'm one that in Kevin Durant, a healthy Kevin Durant, I always say I think he's better than LeBron James. I do.
Yeah.
I think he's the best player in the world, the most unguardable player possibly of all time when he's healthy. It's just those 2 come with a lot of baggage.
We do.
And that injury Kevin Durant had is not an easy one to come back from. So hopefully we get to see some good basketball out of him. And I like Steve Nash. I'd like to see him do well. That being said, we're both on the over pretty confidently. So I had him 50 and 22.
Item 54 and 18. I wouldn't bet on it though. Just because
injury away.
You're 1 injury away. I mean, I wouldn't touch that over under with Joe Harris's dick because
he's a little dick.
Average. But like, yeah, I mean, like 45. You say okay, they should win more than 45 games easily. I mean, I haven't won 54. I haven't been really, really good. But like you said, I mean, Durant gets hurt. I mean, that's that torn Achilles or ruptured Achilles or whatever. I mean, that's like the hardest injury to come back from in sports. So like, if something fucks up with that again, I mean Kyrie's gonna bitch out, and then who knows?
Yeah, you got a lot of question marks, even if they do stay healthy too. Part of the thing is all that depth, but I mean, I don't know how happy Dinwiddie and Levert are going to be.
Right. I mean, those guys are legitimately good players. Like
And now
Dinwiddie's
what
not
are they
even
going to be? Get put in the
starting.
corner,
Right.
So,
Right.
or how fast will that team trade those two guys for, James Harden or whatever else they think is going to be the third part of the big three.
Right.
So it is a little worrisome. I like that over, but it is a volatile play, and
Yeah.
I don't like the plus 600 to win the title.
Mm.
Next up, we got the New York Knickerbockers. Over under is 22.5. I didn't bother with championship odds.
Yeah.
So
21-45 last year. Uh, where they added Amari Spellman, Obi Toppin, Emmanuel Quickly, who just went off the other day. It was yesterday, the day before in the preseason. Uh, Alec Burks, Austin Rivers, Nerlens Noel, and MKG. So they did bring in a lot of people. You lost Taj Gibson, Wayne Ellington, and then your Kadeem Allen, Damian Dotson, and Alonzo Trier, the big three of like the young shooting guards that never really did
the big
anything.
three of like the same player.
Yeah, the same player. Mo Harkless and Bobby Portis are gone too. So there's a lot of moves there. Something too to remember with some of these teams like the Knicks, and some of these teams haven't played basketball in almost a year. So it's going to take them a while, and especially like young teams or teams that had a lot of moves like this. I mean, it's going to be rough going for a bit. Uh, Knicks projected starting lineup: Mitchell Robinson, Julius Randle, R.J. Barrett, Alec Burks, and Alfred Payton. Um, I think this team has. I think they're moving in the right direction. I think that they need to not freak out if they have. I mean, because they're gonna suck this year, and they're probably gonna suck next year. But look, not freak out about it. Kind of keep these guys, keep your Barretts and your Mitchell Robinsons and your Obi Toppins and these guys. Just keep trying to develop them, and who knows.
What they need, you have Coach Tibbs coming in, who's traditionally a pretty decent developmental coach. He's rough around the edges. He's harsh.
Yeah.
Uh, Mitchell Robinson got bullied like off of the campus of Western Kentucky.
Yeah.
Like
so Mitchell Robinson's a very
It's going to be interesting to see how he handles Thibodeau. A lot of these young players, they get softer and softer every year. Not all of them, but Mitchell
right.
Robinson got. I love Mitchell Robinson.
Oh, me, he's one of my favorite players.
Got
in the
bullied
league.
right
Yeah,
off of Western Kentucky.
he did.
So I mean, it's just going to be an interesting mix of young guys. There's no vet leadership. I think Thibodeau is a good guy for the job. Just unfortunately for Thibodeau, I think he's going to have this job for like 3 years, get fired, and the next coach that comes in is going to have a decent roster.
I could totally see that. Like they end up in like 3 years, they end up like 42-40 or something like that, assuming they play 82 games, and he gets fired. They lose in the first round. He gets fired, and then the next guy comes in and wins 50 games
Right.
the following year.
Because I do
something
think
like that.
Barrett's a superstar.
He could very well be.
Topin looks like he could be kind of, like a poor man Zion.
Yeah.
He's kind of a similar build and skill set.
And Randall too. I mean, really, Randall's a 20-10 guy.
Right.
It's like he's your.
So there's a lot of young talent on this team, and Mitchell Robinson's a great rim protector. So
Mhm.
there's a lot of young talent on this team. There's just no veterans to back it up, and it's just going to be interesting. I think the best thing you can hope for this Knicks team is towards the end of the season you see a few flashes where things gel and they string together some wins to show that they're moving in the right direction.
I think so too.
That being said, I had them 19-53 on the under.
I had them 21-51 on the under. Also, under's 22.5. I mean, I probably wouldn't touch this one because, like he said, they might string some together towards the end of the season. You could see them win like 24, 25 games, or they might fall under 20. It's just kind of, I wouldn't touch that one though.
No. All right, moving over to the Milwaukee Bucks. Over under is 51. Championship odds are plus 600. So interestingly enough, same championship odds for the Bucks and the Nets.
That is interesting. 56-17 is what they were last year. They added Drew Holiday, DJ Augustine, Torrey Craig, Brian Forbes, and Bobby Portis. Is it Brian Forbes or Byron Forbes? I don't remember. I think it's Brian.
He's not important enough to remember.
No.
I think it's Brian.
But it's like a weird spelling or something.
Yeah, it's
Like
I think it's
like
Brian.
BRAUZN
or something.
or something. They lost Eric Bledsoe, George Hill, Ersan Ilyasova, Wes Matthews, who's in Marvin Williams.
Over under on number of games before Ilyasova comes back to the Bucks.
6. He loves it. He's been traded from there 3 times, or he's played there 3 different times. Marvin Williams, Robin Lopez, Kyle Korver, and Sterling Brown. You know, one thing I don't like about this team, I mean, I like some of the moves that they made. I love bringing in Drew Holiday. Still elite defender and just like a good leader and a great player. Torrey Craig good off the bench. I don't like that they lost all their shooting though for the most part. Like you had like George Hill at one point, if not ended up as the number 1 in 3-point percentage last year. Wes Matthews is a 3-point specialist. Kyle Korver's a 3-point specialist. Like you still have some guys that could shoot, but nothing really like. You don't have any like specialists or anybody that could kind of okay, we need a 3. Let's put this guy in. You know.
I agree.
I don't like that. But that being said, I do like bringing in Holiday and some of the moves. And Bobby Portis, I noticed, was playing a lot of backup 4 minutes during the preseason. So
I do. I hope they learn. I hope they're the team that learns how to use Bobby Portis. I think Bobby Portis
do too. He's pretty good.
Has a lot of potential. I think he could be a big part of that front court.
Yeah.
I mean, it's definitely a step up from Robin Lopez, if you ask me.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
So, this team has a ton to offer on defense. I mean, even your scrappy guys, your DiVincenzos and your Connaughtons that might come off the bench, and then Drew Holiday obviously can match up with anybody 1-on-1. I mean, he's probably the best overall defender in the league. Middleton's pretty good, and now he gets to guard, your third option, obviously Giannis. So I do agree with you. They did lose a lot of shooting. Torrey Craig could shoot a little bit, but it's not enough to make up for what they lost. It's just gonna all be around Giannis. It's kind of put up or shut up. He wanted the parts around him. He signed the extension, so obviously he thinks he got the parts around him.
Right.
So it's kind of time for Giannis to prove it. And I mean, I think he's the most dominant force in the league right now, honestly. So I have him 58-14. I think they go over.
Right. Over-under's 51. I have it 55-17. So we're both on the over there. I don't really see a reason why they wouldn't go over 51 wins.
And especially they're such a good regular season team.
They are.
Yeah.
They are.
So yeah, I don't see any reason why that over should be really in that much trouble, even in a shortened season. So, next up, we have the Indiana Pacers over under 39.5.
So key additions, none. Key subtractions, none. That's what I have written on my page. And I mean, like I'm writing down all these guys. Like I wrote down, I didn't even know if it was Brian Forbes or Byron Forbes, and I was spelling it with a Z and shit. Like I obviously we know all these guys. It's just they didn't do anything. So this team's the same: Turner, Sabonis, Warren, Oladipo, and Brogdon. I don't know. I mean, I just don't. I think they've kind of they're past. I think they've overperformed the last couple of years, and I don't think they're going to be as good this year.
Especially they fired Nate McMillan. I think Nate McMillan was a big reason that they've performed as well as they have after losing Paul George.
Yeah, like why did they fire Nate McMillan?
I don't know what they expected out of these teams.
Like Brogdon, I mean, like Oladipo was supposed to be your superstar. He's been hurt the last 2 years. Mm-hmm. There's nothing you could do about that.
You're getting more out of Brogdon than anybody could have really imagined.
Oh yeah, I mean, T.J. Warren is putting up like 50 points a game at the end of the last season. Like that's not T.J. Warren. Like he's gotten. Nate McMillan made the absolute best out of this roster. Like I don't have them doing too bad, but I would not be surprised if they just completely fell apart this year.
I think they're gonna, especially there's been a lot of talk in the offseason about trading Oladipo and trading Turner, which I mean that's a recipe for a really rough locker room.
Right.
So then you add
because Oladipo's probably singing to him in there. You know,
he got some smooth vocals.
He does.
And then you got this. All right, so Nate some Viking named Bjorkgren or something. He's just been like Nick Nurse's assistant in the G League, NBA, whatever. So he's a new head coach, and you're giving him this, and then you give him some locker room issues. Trot out the same team that's been overperforming for a good coach, and you give him this guy as a first time coach. I have them falling out of the playoff picture. I have them at 30-42. I don't like this team without McMillan. I think there's going to be a lot of roster movement as the season goes on.
I could definitely see that. I have them a bit better. I have them at 38-35. That's still under the 39.5. 38 is, it's got to be the absolute max for them. I gave them a lot of credit just because the team's been together for a while. And especially in a bubble year, like I think that chemistry is going to be more important than ever. But as long as those guys can, play together, stay together, they work well with the new coach. Even if that happens, I still, like I said, I still only have 38 wins.
I mean, with a team that's gritty defensively and they overperform and they fight and they push LeBron how many times in the East?
Yeah,
as a way, as an 8 seed or
right,
7
right,
seed, pushing LeBron. I mean, that's the sign of playing for a coach.
right.
So I think that's a big recipe for disaster losing McMillan.
Yeah,
I wouldn't be surprised to see it blow up.
I wouldn't either.
Very comfortable with the under.
I would take the under. Like it's another one of those ones. Like it's weird because I have it at, it's only at 1.5. Like the under's 39.5. I have them at 38, but that's one of my favorite unders of the over unders in the entire league. So
next up we got the Chicago Bulls over under 29.5.
Bulls went 22-43 last year. They added Patrick Williams in the draft, and they picked up Garrett Temple. They lost Chris Dunn. So you're basically throwing out the same team, just a little more experience now. You get another year out of Kobe White and Wendell Carter. Patrick Williams, I don't know. The jury's going to be out on him. Like, he's not. It's hard to say when a guy's a top 5 pick, but I don't know. Like, me and him really didn't like the draft pick, but then again, we're not there for all the camps and all this kind of shit,
I mean, so you can admit, I really didn't like the Trae Young pick.
Right, and he ended up being awesome. So
pretty damn good.
Yeah. So, but that being said, I mean that's really all they added. So you got Carter Markkanen, Otto Porter, Zach LaVine, and Kobe White. I think this team's going to depend a lot on Markkanen because as great as he looked his rookie year, he looked horrible last year. And I know he had injury problems. They were talking about how he was playing through injuries, or he said he was injured and the coach wasn't believing him, or the coaches and trainers were trying to make him play. I don't really know what was going on there.
So that Jim Boylan is gone. They brought in Billy Donovan.
Right, which was a great move.
Right. Boylan, the team openly hated Boylan from the day he took over. They never liked him. So you're not going to have young players developing with a coach that they can't stand. And even the veterans, the few veterans on the team, they can't stand him. Nobody respects him. So, I mean, you're getting 8-win bump on the projected total just because they have Billy Donovan, which
really.
Whether I think that's a good movement or bad movement on the over under, it's saying a lot of respect for Billy Donovan. So
yeah,
I think they're really counting on Billy Donovan to develop these guys, and I think he's proven in the past that he can develop. I mean, in the OKC, they got 3 fucking draft picks in a row that became MVPs.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, he can develop talent,
right?
And you got a lot of young talent. So I think your Markkanens, your Kobe Whites, your Wendell Carters, I think they will improve and they will get better. And Boylan wasn't good for the rookies. He never gave Chris Dunn a chance. He didn't like playing Kobe White last year. Even when Wendell Carter was healthy, played sparingly. The Boylan just wasn't a good coach for the young guys. And I think Billy Donovan understands. He's been around long enough to understand what this team is. And I have them going under. I have them 27-46, but I would not be surprised at all to see some spurts at the end of the year where they start gelling together and playing really well.
Right.
Especially with LaVine and Porter, who are both decent players. So
right. 27 and 46 is also what I have them. I think this team's definitely going to be moving in the right direction. Hopefully for them, Patrick Williams works out. I'm not too sure on it. Hopefully he does. If he does, now you've got another guy to add in the mix. So
Mhm.
so I think this team's they hired the right coach. They're going to be moving in the right direction. I mean, it's not going to be this year, but they're going to be in the playoffs in the next couple of years. I
Right.
think so.
That being said, an 8-win bump in a shortened season is it's a lot to ask.
Yeah, yeah, it
So I'm
is.
not super comfortable with the under, but that is a pretty solid under to jump
Right,
on.
right.
Next team we got coming up here is the Detroit Pistons over under 23 and a half.
Whew.
lot to talk about.
Take a deep breath before this one. So before I even get into this, we were watching the draft, and there was just move after move after move after move with the Pistons, and we're like, what the fuck are they doing? Like, just we'll trade you like these 3 draft picks for like this guy, and then trade like these guys for these draft picks, and like it
It
was
was
just
like they went
such a
full
clusterfuck.
fucking Inception. Like,
Yeah,
there's a pick within a pick within another pick.
yeah. And it's like, yeah, it's not like something you do on NBA 2K where you start like breaking down your team and you're trading all these guys for all these guys, and then like you look at it and you're like, man, this sucks. I'm gonna reload.
reset. This
Yeah,
franchise blows.
yeah. So that's kind of what they did. So they were 20 and 46 last year. So they kept 3 players on their roster. Now 2 of them were Blake Griffin and Derrick Rose, who you would think would be the 2
Should have been the first ones out.
the first ones traded. I mean, they're both going to give you value on another team.
Mm-hmm.
So you added DeLon Wright, Rodney McGruder, Killian Hayes, Isaiah Stewart, Zakid Bey, Jeremy Grant, Josh Jackson, Jaleel Okafor, Miles Plumlee, and Wayne Ellington. And you lost Bruce Brown, Luke Kennard, Kyrie Thomas, Tony Snell, Langston Galloway, Christian Wood, John Henson, Thon Maker, and Derek Walton Jr. So you have like a whole new team. What's crazy though is like a lot of these guys that doesn't even make sense. Like DeLon Wright would be good on a contender.
Jeremy
Or
Grant,
Jeremy Grant is like
Mason
perfect
Plumlee.
player on a contender. Mason Plumlee,
Wayne Ellington.
Wayne Ellington. I mean,
All of
these
them.
guys are all they're all guys that should have went to a contender. They're not just like you just threw some random guys together, and
Yeah, it's like a pickup team.
yeah. I don't know.
And I feel bad for those guys.
I do too.
I mean, I even feel bad for Blake Griffin and Derrick Rose.
Yeah.
They're both going to just fake the shit out of getting COVID.
Oh yeah.
They're not going to play more than 10 games.
Yeah.
I mean, they don't play more than 10 games usually anyway.
Anyways, yeah.
So they're not going to play it for this team. I mean, there's bright spots. Killian Hayes is. I mean, they're putting a lot of faith in somebody that. I mean, he played in France, right? I don't even know.
I think so. They had a good draft because they got Killian Hayes, Isaiah Stewart, and Zakid Bey. That's a good.
I agree.
Draft.
I agree. And Sekou Doumbouya
And Doumbouya
looks pretty decent.
Yeah.
From what he's done for over.
I think he's going to be really good, actually.
And Josh Jackson still
Yeah.
could turn out to be okay. There's times where he has some decent games.
Right.
I don't know. They traded Luke Kennard, and apparently he's worth $64 million.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. What is that?
figure
about?
that one out.
But it's just like they just got like their entire team and like all these different players are just like, oh, here you go,
I don't see any motivation coming out of that team.
No.
Best case scenario is those young guys get to develop and stay together, and hopefully in a few years, I don't even know what draft picks they have because it all happened so fucking fast.
I know. I have no clue.
I don't know. They either have a ton or none. I'm not really fucking sure. So I got them 9 and 63, one of the worst teams in the league.
Yeah. Got to be the worst.
Very confident in that under.
I have them 12 and 60, and that 23.5. I mean, easy,
Not even close.
not even close.
Not even close.
As of right now, it's Plumlee, Blake Griffin, Jeremy Grant, DeLon Wright, and Killian Hayes in your starting lineup. But I mean, it's Blake Griffin's. If he's still on that team by the end of the year, he'll have maybe played 12 games.
He's gonna beat the shit out of a towel boy. I know that.
Yeah.
Next up, you got the Cleveland Cavaliers. Over under is 22.5.
The Cavs went 19 and 46 last year. They added JaVale McGee, Damian Dotson, Thon Maker, and Isaac Okoro as their draft pick. They lost Tristan Thompson and I guess kind of Jordan Bell, the mysterious Jordan Bell. you know, this team could be interesting, and I don't think they're going to be good, but they definitely have some pieces here, and I think that like I like them and like JaVale McGee. I mean, now you're talking JaVale McGee's like your fourth big man because you got Drummond and Love as your starters, and then you have Larry Nance. So, I mean, you have a lot there. It's just gonna it's really gonna depend on the young guys and see what they do because they could be a and like I don't think so, but they could potentially sneak into like that 9-8 spot. Just with the talent they have, like Drummond and Love are two of the best players at their positions still. You got, if Akaro turns out of what they think he's going to be, he's a good defender. You got Sexton and Garland that were, I mean, basically, well, Sexton was like a one-man show in college. Garland didn't even play, but I don't know. What do you think?
I mean, I like JB Bickerstaff staying with the team. I think when he was coaching last year, I think JB Bickerstaff got a lot out of the team.
Mm.
The fucking goddamn, what was that douchebag coach's name? Beeline from Michigan.
Yeah.
I mean, it was just such a bad hire in the first place, and it really set back the potential that this team did have. And I'm hoping JB Bickerstaff gets a few years to unfuck what Beeline fucked.
Beeline was just like some. It just looked like
some old white guy.
Yeah, just some old white guy.
Like you're trying to get a monster before you go to work, and he's buying 17 fucking very particular lottery tickets.
Yeah, and you're so goddamn pissed off.
I want a single block.
Yeah.
You did a double block, and nobody knows what the fuck that means.
Yeah.
You can order your fucking lottery tickets perfect, but if God forbid you're in front of me in line at Chipotle and you've never fucking ordered a burrito before.
Right.
Fuck you, Beeline. But yeah, so he really set this team back. The young players have not progressed at all.
They've learned nothing. I mean, they're still the same. They just run around out there,
So, I mean, as far as Akaro, I actually really liked Akaro as far as a college player and a pick if he went to the right team. But I don't know that this is the right team, and I don't know that Bickerstaff's going to get enough time to get this team in line. I mean, you got to keep Andre Drummond and Kevin Love happy,
right?
To not have that become an issue where they're, especially Kevin Love, like, hey, I'm getting older, I got to get the fuck out of here. Like, I want to win again.
Yeah.
So I think you have a very small window before those guys start getting pretty damn frustrated. And I think the bottom line is Colin Sexton isn't a point guard.
No.
Best case scenario, I see Colin Sexton as a Lou Williams type or a Jordan Clarkson type.
Which is fine.
And I like him. I mean, the man can score.
Yeah.
It's just he's not a distributor. And
right.
And I think Darius Garland has a lot of potential. But as far as right now, when I look at the roster, Darius Garland's the one that I look at that you have to learn how to play point guard. You have to be able to pass.
Yep.
And point guards are just so important in this league right now as far as scoring and distributing.
Right. I mean, just as bad as he was as a point guard last year, like I think Garland, it's kind of, I mean, even though it's only going to be his second year, it'd be like, look, dude, like this team could potentially, make some noise, get close to 500, but if you can't play point guard, they're going to win fucking 20 games. So,
right.
I mean, it's going to be it's going to rely on Garland a lot. And, I don't know.
And Akaro, if Garland could play point guard,
then Akaro
becomes a pretty good pick.
A pretty good pick, right? So I think I don't know. I think that it's going to be an interesting team to watch this year to see what Garland does, and I hope. I mean, he's another team. I mean, it's been almost a year since we watched him play. So I hope Garland's been working on his shit. I mean, probably not, but hopefully he has been. And that's a guy that you've never even played in college either. So it's like the dude really just went from...
And he was a very big prospect.
Yeah, he was a huge prospect, went from high school. And there's a difference from going from high school a difference between going from high school to the pros to going from high school to supposed to be going to college, but being injured the entire year and then going to the pros.
Right.
You know, you have that whole year off, and then you have that you're going straight from high school. So, especially being a point guard too. So hopefully he's made some strides, and hopefully he'll continue to make strides. I have them going 29-44 this year, which is well above the over. I wouldn't bet on it, but I mean, I do have it. You know, it is almost 7 games above the over, 6.5. So
I got them 21-52, but not a lot of confidence either way on it.
right.
So I have under, you have over. I'm not very confident on it.
Nah,
But,
me neither.
it's just gonna depend. Darius Garland, it's on you, man.
Yep.
So we're moving on to the Miami Heat. The fuck is that cat doing?
I don't know. These animals just run around all over the place. One more thing with the Cavs before we go to the Heat is Kevin Porter Jr. like what is
No, he's good.
He's fine?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So we're from Youngstown, Ohio.
Yeah.
Where Kevin Porter Jr. was like just arrested like here recently.
Because everyone just comes here to get arrested.
Yeah,
That's
he
the
like
thing to do.
He, like, allegedly beat the hell out of his girl and had a bunch of guns and drugs or something. But
Yeah.
no, like Youngstown's not pressing charges. He's cool.
So he's
fine.
good, yeah.
Yeah, he's game time decision the last preseason game, so he's fine.
I mean, I would never.
And he had that Twitter post where he almost killed himself.
Oh yeah, that's right.
So
I would never. I would
Kevin
never.
Porter, get help. Get help, dude.
Yeah, I would definitely never condone beating a woman or having drugs or guns in the car. I mean, which
This motherfucker, Mike DeWine, wants to throw everybody in jail and shit for fucking COVID violations. But Kevin Porter could just do whatever he wants. I bet it was fast curfew. We have that 10 p.m.
Yeah,
curfew.
it probably
I bet
was
it was
fast. It probably was.
You don't beat a woman before 10 p.m.
No,
That's a big rule.
I just think that they were probably like, he beat this woman, but it was like an hour away in Cleveland, and like
beat her with a 7-foot stick.
yeah, and like
So it was more than the 6 feet.
yeah. But we've had like 13 murders in Youngstown within the last couple hours, so
True.
So we'll just let him go.
So
yeah, it's if you haven't heard of it, don't ever fucking come here.
yeah,
It's
successful.
You'll be shocked.
All right, so the Miami Heat over under 44.5 championship odds plus 1,800. Also, worse odds than the 76ers. They were in the finals.
They were in the finals.
So,
I mean, whether you think or not that they should have been in a regular, if there hadn't been the bubble and all that, doesn't matter.
yeah,
They were in the finals.
Spolstra.
I mean, you have one of the best organizations in sports. You have one of the best superstars in the league, whether or not people want to admit it, and Jimmy Butler. Adebayo has showed that he's a legitimate superstar as well. It's a good team, and then you have you brought in. Okay, so you lost Jay Crowder. It's gonna hurt.
It's a bad loss.
But you brought in you lost Derek Jones Jr. as well and Solomon Hill. So you lost 3 basically small forwards.
Hell.
Oh, yeah. I'll go back to the Pelicans. So they brought in Precious in the draft. They brought in Avery Bradley and they brought in Mo Harkless. So like you kind of brought in the same type of players, Jay Crowder and a couple of those. I don't really think that these moves make them any better or worse overall, which is fine to say when you're in the finals. It's not like you're the fucking Indiana Pacers, who didn't do anything, but like I don't like they weren't a finals team.
There's something to be said for what happened, because while the finals showed us that the Heat were clearly a superstar away from being a legitimate title contender, at the same time they were in the finals and they didn't fuck up their entire chemistry.
Right.
Just to try to find, your whatever random, and not that he would have even been a bad fit, but like getting rid of a bunch of young guys for like Drew Holiday.
Right.
That wouldn't have put you in contention legitimately. And you fuck yourself over that way.
Because you were in the finals because of, you had young talent and chemistry and coaching and everything else. And
I mean, Duncan Robinson had one of the best shooting years in the history of the game, if not the best.
Yeah.
Shooting year of all time.
I mean, Duncan Robinson's only going to get better.
I think that's about his cap. But, I mean,
Probably. But I mean, like, he's not going to.
That's just what he is.
Yeah,
It's just fantastic that he did that.
I'm
more
saying,
consistency, maybe,
Right, more consistency. Well, more so saying that, like, that like it's not like, I guess I should have worded as where like Duncan Robinson, it's not like he's just going to completely fall off. Like he's not going to
get more confident.
He's going to get more confident. Adebayo is going to keep getting better. Tyler Hero is going to keep getting better.
Tyler Hero's a legitimate star in this league.
Yeah, he's getting fucking sweet. So now you have like all these guys. I mean, and the difference between this team and some other teams that you see like this, where you have like a superstar and like a borderline superstar, then you have like a shitload of depth. Like sometimes it feels like a log jam, but it's not with this team.
Mm-hmm.
Like they play so well.
It's very fluid,
and they so right. So they were 44-29 last year. What's the over under again?
It's 44.5.
44.5. So I had them at 49-23. So pretty solid over on that.
I like that they brought back Dragic. Butler threatened to beat his ass if he
he did.
It's huge that they got Dragic. To come back, he's like aging a little bit, but he showed in the playoffs and towards the end of the season, in the startup, I guess the start of the bubble, that he still has it. And you have Nunn and Hero that could play point.
Right.
You just got so many young pieces on that team, and then you got the big, obviously Butler and Dragic.
You forget too, like Nunn was a rookie last year.
Yeah,
like
so many of the Hero was a rookie too.
Yeah.
And Duncan Robinson's 2 or 3 years in the league, so
if that,
a lot. I still see them as being like one piece away. I still do, but I like the odds of this organization progressing these guys to the next level.
Yeah.
Even within the organization. And hearing a lot about James Harden, I don't like that Tyler Hero's name is getting thrown around. Even if, whatever, even if it is a good trade, I don't want you to ruin anything within the organization just on the chance of getting James Harden.
Right.
So exactly. I hope that's really not the case, that it keeps coming out like that. But I don't see any reason why one of the best organizations in sports should take too many steps back here. I had him 51-21.
Okay, so we're both pretty well on the over there.
Mm-hmm. Next up, we got the Orlando Magic over under 31.5.
31.5. Yeah, I should write, because I forgot to do the Southeast over and unders, so I should write 31.5 here.
Nice.
Yeah. What was the last one? 45?
44.5.
44.5. Okay. So anyway, 33-40 last year, the Magic. They added Cole Anthony and Dwayne Bacon. Dwayne Bacon, right?
Dwayne Bacon.
Cole Anthony and Dwayne Bacon. They lost DJ Augustine and a one-do. I like, like old Bacon's probably a little bit better than a one-do, and I think Cole Anthony. I actually love Cole Anthony. I think he's going to be
a great pick.
So, you have the problem with this team is that they're just like weird. Like they have like Jonathan Isaac is. I mean, there was that shit last year where he didn't wear that Black Lives Matter shirt, and then he tore his ACL that day. Yeah. So Jonathan Isaac, and then he's like missing or something. I don't know what's going on.
So I tried to look into it, and they got a disabled player exception, which I've never heard of until today. It's so, as far as I understand, they got like $3 million for the year in exception money because I guess he's just not coming back this year.
I guess.
I mean, I've never heard of that before, but so the Warriors get that because of Clay? Like
I don't know.
They had to file for it, like how you had to file that appeal for
yeah
that fraudulent money.
Yeah. So, but they have James Ennis slated to start small forward. So, like, would he
James Ennis is a bitch.
Well, would he get? But he should get the disabled player thing too because he's fat. Yeah, so you got Vuk, who's one of the best centers in the league, starting. Aaron Gordon, it's just back and forth. Like he's hurt, and then he's healthy, and then he's like really good for a while, and then he's just kind of like,
and then he's like, this is like exactly what you think Aaron Gordon is, but then they want to trade him.
Yeah, and then it's just, yeah, he was on that chalkboard. They wanted to trade. It was in that picture or whatever.
Very dramatic relationship between Aaron Gordon and the Magic.
So then you got Jeff Ennis starting at the 3. He sucks. Evan Fournier has shown that he sucks because Evan Fournier I've always given credit to, and I usually don't like a lot of foreign players, but for whatever reason I liked Fournier, and I'd always expected him to get better, and he never did.
Yeah, no, he's
Um,
pretty much just the same as he's always been.
Yeah, Fultz though looked pretty good last year. Definitely made some strides with him. Um, so I don't know. I mean, this team, I don't expect them to be very good, honestly, and I don't expect them to be good until they get like I think Cole Anthony was definitely a move the right direction. They re-signed Fultz, or they're about to. I like that. They got to figure out what they're going to do with Aaron Gordon. They got to figure out what's going on with Jonathan Isaac. I mean, he tore his ACL. There was all that shit, and then he signed an extension. So I guess he's going to be there. But, Vuk. Vuk's not old, but he's not getting any younger, and he's not going to want to keep losing year in and year out. So I don't know. They got to figure some shit out. They got to make some. They got to make some moves here coming up.
I mean, this team, the over-under was 31.5. I got them at 32 and 40. So my confidence in what this team is going to be is very questionable. I can see them anywhere from 7th to 11th in the East. Like they're very scrappy defensively, and they can change the pace of the game and slow it down against any team. And we saw it in the first round of the playoffs against the Bucks when they pushed them a little bit in that series. And yeah, the Bucks underperformed in the playoffs, but that style, I mean, being able to do that defensively can really fuck with some teams.
Yeah, it definitely can.
Anthony and Fultz could be a really interesting backcourt, and it could be really effective if Anthony, does good this year and comes into the game well, and if Fultz continues to improve. My big thing is I want to know what's going on with Mo Bamba. Either he can play or he can't. You gotta get him on that court, and if he's not good, you gotta find out, can I make him better, or is he a waste? Because they need him, and you can't hide him forever.
You can't draft somebody that high, and then just like I understand, guys,
and it's happened with,
and it's fine.
It's happened with Noel, and it's happened with Okafor.
Yeah,
and you just consider them flops. But they never really get a chance to do anything.
Right. Like
I get it. You see it in practice and shit, but at some point, like, your fans need to see it too. They need to understand.
And like, I don't know, like games, sometimes some guys are different in games. Some guys show up to games. You need to play, especially when you're the Orlando Magic. You haven't won anything ever. Mm-hmm. And you have no legitimate chance of it winning anything for this foreseeable future. So get his ass out there and see what he's got.
Because you drafted him for a reason.
Yeah, you drafted him for a reason.
He wasn't a late first rounder.
No.
He was, top 7?
Yeah, and so now, like you never really gave him a chance, and it's just like, oh, he's going to sit behind whoever. It would be a good year this year because...
Right. I mean, are you going to run Khem Birch out there all fucking year?
Yeah.
Or are you going to see what Bamba has?
Yeah, and now, especially with Isaac, hurt and stuff. I mean, you got, you don't need to be playing Jeff Ennis. You know what Jeff Ennis is. You don't have to be playing him.
Piece of shit.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know if you're overly confident on it. I'm not overly confident on the number at all. Moving on, you got Washington Wizards over under 32.5 championship odds plus 10,000.
So you're telling me that plus 10,000. Now, obviously, I don't think they're going to win the championship, but I just don't think you can ever have a team that's plus 10,000 or a team that's projected. How many wins were they projected? Time to write it down.
32.5.
32.5. So how do you have a team over under 32.5 and plus 10,000 when you have two guys that are going to be Hall of Famers in your starting lineup?
Two of the best two-way players in the league also.
Yeah.
You're telling me that so what did they win last year?
They won 25 games last year.
25 games. So you're telling me Russell Westbrook isn't worth 8 wins? Russell Westbrook could beat bad teams on his own.
Just bringing Bradley Beal back from the bubble might have been 8 wins. You know what I mean? So you added Russell Westbrook, Robin Lopez, and then they drafted that I can't ever say his name as Avdija.
He's Jewish.
He's Jewish.
Hitler would have been pissed.
Oh, would have been so pissed.
But we love the Jews.
Yeah. But he's supposed to be legit, So you have him. He's not even going to start. He's not even like
the Jew.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought they were going to start him.
No, because they're starting Hachimura at the 4, and they're starting.
Oh, because he's hurt right now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. You lost Shabazz Napier and Gary Payton Jr. Big fucking deal.
No, because LeBron said Shabazz Napier was going to be sweet.
Oh yeah, he did. I keep like.
And now he said he discovered Horton Tucker.
Horton Tucker.
Tucker Horton.
Yeah, Horton Tucker. I think.
Whatever.
Horton Tucker
looks like Jared Dudley out there.
Yeah,
looks exactly like they're both fat.
Yeah, he's huge.
I mean, we're fat, but they're
like,
professional athletes.
Yeah, they're professional athletes. Like they don't. I don't know. They have people to like make them meals and shit, and like fucking. That's all they have to do is just be in shape. Like, what are you doing? Yeah, so your starting lineup. So your starting lineup as of right now, you have Thomas Bryant at the center. You got Hachimura at the 4. Hachimura was hurt for a lot of last year too.
Mm-hmm.
At the end,
mm-hmm. Still hurt.
You got Burton's at the 3 or Troy Brown, either way. Bradley Beal and Russell Westbrook. I mean, I don't have any idea. I mean, I guess because they won 25 games last year, but I don't know. Like, it's the team's good.
To me, and bottom line is Westbrook alone. Westbrook alone is worth 8 wins to me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Even in a shortened season, Westbrook and Beal should be monsters. I mean, it might take a minute to gel. You got a lot of young guys, and they only played like one half of a preseason game together. Westbrook and Beal,
right?
So that is maybe slightly the worry. Is it could take a minute. But I think in the East, being that it is a little weaker of a conference, I don't see that over-under being any sort of a problem. I got them 39 and 33. I think they're going to be a playoff team. I wasn't big on the Israelite, but the scouts were I don't know what his name is.
Israel pick. I don't either. I mean,
I don't know what to call him. I didn't want to say Jew again. I'm not sure if Jew is offensive or not.
I'm not sure, yeah.
But he looked good in the preseason. He looked like
he did.
He did have a pretty interesting skill set, so he could be a pretty interesting player.
Yeah.
And with all that other young talent, if they blossom a little bit right alongside Westbrook and Beal, it could be a pretty tough team. So could be an interesting out in the playoffs too. It's not a team I'd want to draw.
Not at all.
Not at all. So
I have them at 40 and 32,
and I had them at 39 and 33.
And that over, I mean,
it's too low.
Yeah, I mean that's probably my favorite. It's definitely my favorite over that we've done so far.
Right. Pistons are my favorite.
Are my favorite under for sure.
All right, so our next team is the Charlotte Hornets. Over under 25.5. Championship odds plus 25,000.
Hornets won 23 games last year. They added Gordon Hayward, LaMelo Ball, and Vernon Carey Jr. They lost Dwayne Bacon, Nick Batum, and Willie Hernangomez. So this team, I think, really fucking good. He's a bitch, too.
He is a bitch.
This team could go really one of two ways. Okay, so you have Cody Zeller, who sucks.
Don't throw that in my face, Cody Zeller.
Cody Zeller sucks.
Fuck Cody Zeller. He's a bitch.
That was a bad pick when they picked him. He's been bad ever since. Like he's nothing more than just some fucking big man to bring off the bench and give you minutes.
Some huge white guy.
Yeah, he's been starting though for the last fucking 10 years or whatever. So then you got PJ Washington, Gordon Hayward, Devontae Graham, and Terry Rozier. So you have a your big issue here in this lineup is you don't have a true point guard, but you drafted LaMelo Ball. If LaMelo Ball can come in and be what he should, I think this team has a potential to do really well, possibly even make the playoffs. Bringing in Gordon Hayward was a big pickup for them. So now you have your PJ Washington, who looked really good when he played last year. You have
now you say PJ Washington looked really good.
He's fat. I never said that he was.
Every time I say I like PJ Washington, you say he's the most boring piece of shit, bitch ass tits.
No, you know what? You know what?
Always talk about his tits.
You know what I do? You know what? I was actually kind of thinking, this was my bad. I was actually kind of thinking of Jaren Jackson. Jaren Jackson's pretty good when he plays. PJ Washington's
Oh my
Okay.
god,
Jaren Jackson's better. He's all okay.
No,
He's all
pretty
right.
mediocre.
He's all right. He's all right. But he's young though. He's not like it's
Yeah.
not a bad power forward. To
And
have. Like,
they
I'm
say
not
he's going to
really-
get some center time this year.
Mhm.
Could be interesting.
like he's definitely better than Cody Zeller having up there.
Well, fuck yeah.
Yeah. But then the wild card though is LaMelo Ball because you have Devontae Graham and Terry Rozier. Either one of them could play a dick at point guard. But if Ball can, now you can bring Rozier off the bench as your sixth man, and now that team looks pretty legit. Not to mention you brought in Vernon Carey Jr., who is one of the best centers, one of the best recruited centers, one of the best centers in college basketball, and he could potentially take over for Zeller. So this team has a lot of promise, and you have Hayward kind of as your vet leader, bringing that team together. I like this team.
I like Hayward in this spot. I mean, it's a pick that it's a pickup that if you were a Charlotte Hornets fan, and not like a deep dive type of fan, like if you're just I love the Charlotte Hornets, I watch them on TV sometimes, you might look at it and be like, why the fuck would they pay all that money for Gordon Hayward? He's always hurt, blah blah blah. That's the best free agent that the Charlotte Hornets are going to get.
Yeah.
Also, it's a really good spot for Gordon Hayward to be because it's your chance to prove, just like you did on the Jazz, that you're that caliber of player. You're an all-star. So,
and really too, like, I mean, honestly, if you think about it, were there really any free agents this year that changed teams that were better than Gordon Hayward? I don't think so.
I don't think so. Not that I could think of off the top of my head.
So
I mean, it's one of the bigger pickups in the market. Honestly,
yeah,
it's just Gordon Hayward gets a lot of hate, and I understand some of it, but
right.
I like him, so I stick up for him a little bit. But I mean, when he is healthy, he's a legitimate all-star caliber two-way player.
Yeah.
So, LaMelo Ball was my favorite prospect coming into this season as far as potential. I think LaMelo Ball could easily be the best player that was in this draft.
Mm-hmm.
The worry about the balls is the same as all the balls. It's LeVar. And when Lonzo got drafted to the Lakers, I thought, man, Magic Johnson's going to be able to handle that fucking douchebag. Like, no problem. Come on. But Magic's such a goddamn sweetheart. That,
Right.
right.
I know.
He didn't stand up to him, and it was a nightmare. And then once LeVar got out of the picture, Lonzo's a pretty decent player for the Pelicans now.
Right.
Jordan will call a spade, though.
Yeah.
LeVar could challenge him to all the one-on-one basketball games he wants. Michael Jordan will put that motherfucker in his place.
Right.
So, LaMelo Ball, I don't think the LeVar factor is a big deal. I think it's just going to be about his on-court development, so it's going to be up to that organization to develop the talent that he clearly has. But I'm right on the same page with you. I need to see improvement out of PJ Washington and Miles Bridges. They need to go from being just mediocre players to starting to figure out what they are in this league.
Right.
I think PJ Washington has a higher ceiling for that than Miles Bridges does. But Bridges could be decent.
Yeah.
Other than that, it's just all about the point guard. It's 100% somebody on that team. Until LaMelo Ball is ready to be the ball handler on that team, somebody on that team has to learn how to distribute. Yeah. So that's going to be the key. I actually had him going 32 and 40 and overperforming the total.
Interesting. Over under 25 and a half. I had him at 27 and 45, which is a decent amount lower than you did, but we both have the over there. Mm-hmm. So I think
this is kind of my dark horse team in the East.
Mm-hmm. And I could definitely see it. I mean, this team could win all the way up to 40 games.
And you have the play-in situation again this year, like we did last year with the bubble. So even if this team's in the spot of like a 10 seed, they could be playing for a playoff spot. So, if you could find playoff odds, I mean, their championship odds are plus 25,000. I don't know off the top of my head, but I would assume their odds to make the playoffs, just make the playoffs.
Right.
Are probably pretty good. So
probably, yeah.
That's something I would look at. This team's a little volatile. I mean, especially with Gordon Hayward being injury prone, but I like the direction this team's heading.
I do too.
All right. Next, our final team is the Atlanta Hawks. Over under is 36.5. Championship odds are plus 10,000.
So the Hawks went 20 and 47 last year. Tony Snell Okwongu? How do you say it?
Okongwu?
Okongwu. I think it's Okongwu. I like him. I just don't really know how to say his name. They brought in Chris Dunn, Gallinari, Solomon Hill, Rajon Rondo, and Bogdanovich. So this is a lot of talent to bring in.
Oh, fuck off.
Solomon Hill needs to go away.
He's been on so many teams, and he's like never played. He just always is on a team.
I know. They lost Bembry, Vince Carter to retirement, Dwayne Dedman, Jeff Teague, and LeBessiere.
Pour one out for Vince Carter.
Yeah. I was very excited to watch Vince
Hell of
Carter.
a ride we had.
I know. He's been playing since we were in like middle school, you know?
Yeah, his uncle would always like text him whenever Vince Carter would have a dunk.
Yeah, because it was like 55 years old. This is amazing. Yeah. So I don't have the starting lineup for the Hawks written down here because I was really drunk at the end of this Eastern Conference. I remember I got all the way down to like it was just like some big jump. Like I got all the way down, and then the last two teams were the Hornets and the Hawks, and I drank like fucking like 5 or 6 beers like between the Hornets and the Hawks for some reason. Like I think I just like forgot to do
Hornets
it.
are a stressful thing.
I know.
You always call them the Bobcats.
Yeah, I do always call them the Bobcats. So I'm imagining what? So they're going to have the centers Clint Capella, power forward is Collins, and then small forward Gallinari probably,
or Hunter,
or Herter.
Mm-hmm.
Shooting guard would probably be one of those guys
again, and then
Trae Young. You know, you might even bring Gallinari off.
Bogdanovich too.
You got Bogdanovich. This team's loaded.
Pretty stacked.
They're loaded.
And in a year where this COVID thing, you know, we've been talking about depth. This team could take a couple injuries as long as it's, you know, or COVID, whatever happens with that. But as long as it's not like Trae Young, I mean, this team can kind of withstand it as long as it's not Trae Young for a significant amount of time.
Right. And even like you have games, you know, Trae Young's out for 2 weeks. We got Rondo and Chris Dunn. Yeah, like
Chris Dunn.
It's fine. Like
this team has a lot of depth, a lot of potential. I've been hearing, I don't know what the cat's doing.
You see one of us like staring off. It's just the cat or the dog. It's
snapping a rubber band or something. Yeah, but it's just I mean this is one of the biggest like inflated win totals, you know, really of this offseason. I mean, how many wins did they have last year?
They had 20 last year.
20 wins, and now you're up to, you know, 36 and a half. Right. It seems crazy, and it's a one that I've seen, you know, a lot of different sites and stuff, you know, wow, take this under, pound this under, this is ridiculous. But, I mean, you know, all of the players that we just named you that they brought in, and on top of that, DeAndre Hunter, Trae Young, Cam Reddish, John Collins, assuming that they just keep progressing like they've been.
Yeah.
Like, what is it that you see that wouldn't make this team take a huge jump?
I mean, this team's like 11, 12 deep. And then you have a team that's like 11 or 12 deep of guys that are good enough to play and good enough to play good minutes. But then on top of that, you're adding like Collins and Young could be legitimate superstars in the league. So, and really even Capella.
And if he's not, you got a Kongwu. I mean, it's just so much depth and so much potential. If even just a couple of those guys keep progressing and panning out, you're already adding them to Collins, Capella, Trae Young, Bogdanovich, guys that are proven commodities. Yeah. So
I mean, like Herter, Hunter, Reddish,
just one of them.
Guys, just one of them. You're fine. Yeah,
you know,
and they're all on the right track. So yes, 36 and a half over under.
Item 42 and 30.
Item 46 and 26. So
pretty
heavy
confident.
Over. Yeah, heavy over, definitely. And, you know, people, I think, are going to be afraid of that, of going over on that when they're just looking at, they only won 20 games last year. But remember, too, I mean, they only won 20 games, but, you know, they only played 67, you know, so it's 5 less games. Then you're talking all these guys that they brought in. Trae Young's a year older, John Collins is a year older. John Collins had
but your core is still the same.
Your core is still the same,
which is huge.
And you brought like Gallinari, guys like Gallinari, Bogdanovich.
They don't fit in anywhere.
Like, yeah, so
you know, Rondo's a wild card. If things were to go south on that team, Rondo could blow up pretty fast. But
Right.
also, if that team makes the playoffs, you get playoff Rondo.
Right. Exactly.
So
You know, and worst comes to worst, if something bad happens with Rondo, well, you can run Cam at the point. You have Chris Dunn, and those guys are just
and I
backups.
imagine Vince Carter's like just still hanging around the facility.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah.
um,
Probably dunking on Solomon's Hill's ass. You know.
so that's our Eastern Conference preview.
Yeah. To final, not to interrupt you, but just my final thing. I have the Bucks as the 1 seed. The Nets is the 2. The Heat is the 3. Boston is the 4. Atlanta is the 5. Toronto is the 6. Washington 7, and Philly 8.
And really, I could see movement anywhere in those top 4.
Right.
My fringe playoff teams would probably be the Hornets could be fringe. The Magic could be fringe. Is there really anybody else besides that? I just don't see it with the Pacers. You can make an argument.
Yeah.
I don't see it.
I mean, I had them a little bit better than you did, but I mean, I still don't have them in the playoffs. So.
Well, but that's really about it. So our next video is going to be the Western Conference Finals. Hopefully you enjoyed this one. Like we said, we're going to try to keep getting better, keep improving. This is literally the first day we even logged on to Better Than Vegas. So
right.
We'll keep getting better with it and hopefully keep entertaining and hopefully win you some money. Also, after we do the Western Conference preview, tomorrow we're going to put some picks out and some fantasy shit. So keep following along. Sign off.
Later.